So what should you expect from, what should we expect, if you like, from, or what should you expect? And this is talking to students. Well, you will be joining, I know some students have described it as Hogwarts as you walk in. It's a school that goes back to the 1800s, 1894. And as you walk around the building, you will see, a huge amount of history. And it is a special environment for that reason. So it's a historic school and environment, and there's a lot of past to it. And I think that brings with it, expectation. But it is also a moulding of old and new. As I've joined the school this year, I've spent a lot of time trying to update some of the stuff that you see around the building, having pictures of students. The website is a new website, and we've been quite rightly and quite needed to move right over to Google Classroom as we're doing right now, and that's been necessary. But it is also part of being a grammar school in the 21st century. We need to be a moulding of old and new. So when you join us, don't expect that it will all be very old-fashioned and like Hogwarts. There will be an awful lot of stuff where we expect you to be very, very up to date. And I genuinely, from my heart, believe this, that our main role is to develop young men to leave us in the sixth form to change the world for the better. That's our goal. That's why I came into education. That's why any teacher worth their salt teaches, which is what they want to do, is produce young people who go out into the world and make it a better place. And genuinely, that's one of our foci. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. You should expect from us support and care. We pride ourselves on pastoral care, on helping people, on giving them support when they find things difficult. And there will be times where your child, or where, if I'm talking to the student here, you will find things difficult, but we will offer the support and care. Just make sure you talk to us so that we know that the support is needed. And you should expect inspiration and challenge. We are a grammar school. We expect to provide that challenge. I was in a history department meeting after school tonight. I was looking at the potential curriculum for next year, which is extraordinarily challenging for the young people that will be joining us. But it also looks very exciting. So you should expect that inspiration and challenge as part of our school. And then, of course, a lot of schools will spend a lot of time talking about results, and we do expect results. And achievement and progression is key. We will expect you to aim to go and fulfill your potential and go on to wherever it is you want to be. For most of our students, that will be university. And for many, that will be top universities, Russell Group or Oxbridge. But for some, it will involve going on to do very high quality apprenticeships when they leave us. And, that's something that's certainly increasing. And the offer of those for students is something that's being increasingly taken up by them. And then the other bit is you should expect cultural capital. In other words, what I mean by that is the ability to go on trips. Hasn't been possible this year, but lots of trips, lots of clubs, to broaden your horizons, get speakers in, debates, that side of things. And we do a lot of that at Borden, and we would expect to do a lot more going forward. So what do we expect as a school? Well, I'm going to keep this fairly simple. We expect kindness. I would put that as I'll put it as my number two, but I'm going to come to the number one in a minute. Kindness is really important. It's being kind to each other, being kind to staff being kind to students. That's something that really, as far as I'm concerned, will make the school a happy and fruitful place to be. So we expect you to be kind to each other and to be kind to us. We expect you to be respectful. It's a key part of being successful in any part of modern life. So showing respect to others and respecting it in return. We expect creativity. It's something often missed when we talk about schools, because exams, other than maybe the arts subject, often don't assess creativity. But it's crucial. Whatever business or job you go into, you need to be creative. You need to be ingenious. You need to think outside the box. You do need to be resilient. It's not always going to go right. Sometimes you will make mistakes, and sometimes people are afraid of failure, but you shouldn't be. Henry Ford said, failing is just the chance to start again better. And I think that's very much true. Courage. If you're going to start again better, you need to have courage. You need to do the right thing, but that's also integrity. Doing the right thing when it's difficult is the most important thing. And we would certainly be encouraging and expecting that. And then that is my number one, effort. If I was to put my line in the sand of what I expect most from students, it's to try. Because even if it goes wrong, if you keep trying and coming back, if you are resilient, even if you can't quite get things right, or you do the wrong thing, but you try to put it right. If you're not kind in the first instance, but you try and put that right afterwards, that effort will gain respect from everybody. And that's what we expect from you. And those are our Borden values, which we created with students and staff this year. And, we definitely think those are things that are at the heart of what we do. And you can see there, effort underpins is the roots behind the tree, where all the leaves are the things that we're trying to encourage. And that's very much something we think is important. We're going to expand upon that next year. And when we did the work on this with students and staff, you'll see around the outside all the words. If you think there's something missing, you'll find that those are linked to one of those core values. Whether it be determination or organisation or being curious or having strength of character or empathy, these are things that all link to those core values. And so we've thought quite carefully that these are the things we want to create. And if you as a student, if we as a staff and you as a parent manage to create young people that leave our school with those values, then they will be successful in whatever they do. And that's why those are our core goals. So parents, what do you expect from us? Well, or what should you expect from your students rather? You may well see this face to start off with. You may see excitement. You may see enthusiasm. You may see slightly, I would describe it as a rabbit caught in the headlights to some extent when your young person starts with us. But it will generally be exciting. But you may see, as they start with us, sometimes things are going to go wrong. Sometimes they're going to get unhappy. They might be scared. All of those things are perfectly natural emotions because they're moving to a whole new environment that's very, very different to the one they've been in with before. Sometimes they might get confused. They don't know what the rules are. They don't know where they're going, their homework, how to find it, etc. And again, we're here to help with that. But you may well see, hopefully not exactly that face, but something similar. At its worst, you might see people get upset. And it does happen when they can't do their homework, when they can't get things right, when they've forgotten something and they maybe got into a little bit of trouble. And that's a perfectly normal part of human evolution, if you like, as they go through school. So don't think that's anything out of the ordinary. But ultimately, what you will see most of is happiness. Our year sevens, and Miss Frost is going to talk about that more in a minute, our year sevens are by and large extraordinarily happy to be with us at Borden. They are tremendous students. They have a wonderful time. And the feedback we get is they feel very lucky to be with us. So it's something definitely to look forward to. But all I'm pointing out here is these normal human emotions may be things that you'll see during the course of the year. Just talk to us and we can help put them right. So we are very much looking to seeing you all in September. You've got a little picture of what I'm like as head teacher of the school. And I'm going to hand over to somebody that's going to be much more important to you, certainly during your first year. And that is Miss Frost. And she will take you through the presentation, the rest of the presentation now, about what it's like to have a day or a week or even a year at Borden. Miss Frost, are you there?
Hello there. Very, very warm welcome to everybody. I think, Mr. Tommy, you might need to stop sharing, or can I share straight from
No, I will stop sharing now. As I said, if I can get this right, then anybody can. So here we go.
Oh, I may have just overridden you.
There we go.
Wow. Okay.
Just to check, Miss Frost, are you recording?
I am recording.
Excellent. So we can share it with other parents if we need.
All systems go.
We should have pointed that out. Obviously, the reason we're asking for questions down the side is because we're happy for us to be what we're presenting now to be shared with other parents. That's why we're putting things down the side. So if you do have any questions, write them in there, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you, Ms. Frost. Over to you.
Absolutely. Just before I get going, I believe Mr. Artingstall, who's assistant head teacher in charge of Key Stage 3, would also like to give you a brief welcome before I get going. Mr. Artingstall?
Thank you, Miss Frost. Yes, welcome to everyone. Great to see so many people here, up to 82, which is fantastic. Could I just remind parents that you do need to turn your cameras off. We've still got a few lovely faces there. We'll get to see you all in September. That's great. And just before I hand back to Mrs. Frost, because I'm in charge of Key Stage 3, I'm sure she'll mention it, but one of the reasons I'm not talking is because the light is so terrible in my dungeon at home here. But the top tip that I would give would be to both the students and for parents would be to ask questions, right? Make sure that you're asking, because it's all new. Communication between parents and secondary school will be quite a shock to you in terms of what you're perhaps used to at primary. So please don't be afraid to pick up the phone, send us an email. We're very friendly. We won't always get things right, but we value the opportunity to try and repair things when things haven't gone so well. I'll hand back now to Mrs. Frost for her excellent advice.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I'd like to add my congratulations to you all for gaining your place with us. And that's whether your child flew through the test, whether you just scraped it, or whether you've come to us on appeal, you've made it and you thoroughly deserve your place with us. And we're delighted to have you. All right, so well done. In particular, obviously, in a very, very difficult year, very challenging circumstances, it means all the more to you and to us that you're joining us in September. So that's wonderful. And also an apology that the transition mornings had to be cancelled. We were so keen to get you guys in, and one of those things out of our hands. Thanks so much for being so understanding. Everybody really has been very understanding. And as I'll explain later on, we're going to do our very best to make that up to you and to give you every opportunity to get to know Board and Grammar before you walk through those gates in September. All right, so I thought perhaps the best way to take you through this evening, to offer you tips and advice, would be to go through a typical day for a Board and Grammar school boy. And what you would need in order for that to be a successful day, going right from before you come through the gates, taking you through what the day will feel like. That will get the boys feeling a bit more comfortable with that, and then a few extra considerations at the end. So as Mr. Artenstall and Mr. Tomlin have said, keep the questions coming in. I will keep an eye on it, and I'll answer those if possible as we go, and otherwise Mr. Artenstall and Mr. Tomlin will remind me of what's going on. Okay, so the groups for the summer school, I presume that question is relating to, is the provisional form groups, and those will be the ones that they'll come through in September. All right, those are very much fixed now. I might as well say that now. I apologise. I know there might be certain people that you want to be with. It's a very complex process that our transition coordinator goes through to get the forms just right. I'll mention that again later on. A huge amount of work goes into it, and it's very well thought out. And just thank you for trusting the professional judgment on that. Mrs. Gilman is her name, and she does an amazing job. She gets it right every year. I'm sticking my neck out saying that, but she really does a good job with that. And put your faith in us that we've made the good choices, and the transition will be really, really smooth. Okay, so before you come in to Board and Grammar, the night before is essential actually to a successful day with us. That includes the uniform laid out and making sure it's all there. Is the PE kit needed? So PE kit is only brought in on days when there's PE and it's taken home again for a wash. I know some primary schools, you bring it in and it just lingers in school all term and then goes home. So the PE kit comes in on the correct days. That is presuming that things returned reasonably to normal in September. Currently, Year 7 come in their kit on PE days because the changing rooms are out of action. Everything I say tonight really is going to be on the basis that we are returning to normal business. But as we've all had to learn to cope with in recent times, things are subject to change. And we'll let you know if things do change, but everything I say tonight will be on the basis that we're running business as usual in September. So PE kit, is it a PE day? The timetable will need to be checked the night before to make sure that is ready, washed to come in. If there's a music lesson, you'll need your own headphones for that. So if it's a music lesson, make sure you're equipped for that. And the bag to be packed, not a last minute rush round when you're sort of pegging it out the door for the bus in the morning. The canteen card, and these things I'll come back to and reference a little bit more. The pencil case, the planner, which is issued by Board and Grammar when you arrive, when boys arrive, and is there any homework that needs to be in that bag? And you'll be able to check that via Google Classroom, something else which I'll mention as we go through as well. So a bit more about organisation. The key to success is being well organised, and a source of great anxiety for some of our boys when they start is the ones who are struggling with organisation. There'll be tons of support on offer. There'll be plenty of people around, form tutors, myself, peer mentors in older year groups, plenty of people to help with that organisation with tips and advice, but a lot of that is going to start at home. So any support you can provide as parents and carers, getting that organisation right would be super grateful. One of the questions that came in ahead of this evening was about what stationery you would need, and I'll come to that in just a second. Is there a specification for the headphones? I'm not aware of one. I think it's just so that pupils can work individually. I don't know whether Mr. Tomlin could put something on the chat or Mr. Artins put something on there. So yeah, it's more that so pupils can work individually, not that they have to be mega expensive quality. Thanks.
Sorry, Ms. Frost, just to add into that, yeah, they're mainly for use in music lessons, where we use it for GarageBand and things like that. So I think the main thing they need to have is a mini jack type input, which is most headphones have anyway, so it's not a problem.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Right, so the essentials on the stationery list. Pens, obviously. A pencil, a rubber, a sharpener, a ruler. A scientific calculator. Now, a separate letter went home recently from the maths department with their guidance for what they think is the best scientific calculator to buy. That letter also has gone into the Year 7 website tab on the website, and I'll talk more about that tab later on as well. All right, if there's any kind of issue around that, then obviously you can put something in the chat. But those are absolutely essential items. Once a week in form time, tutors will check that boys have that equipment with them, and that I have a spreadsheet where tutors will note whether boys are missing bits and pieces. All right, so that's not really, to come down too hard on boys initially, but it's to get boys into good routines. All right, so if you see Year 7 as a training year, if you like, for as we go through, we want to kind of go easy on the early weeks as you're settling in, but as the weeks go on, we will have an expectation that every time that is checked, what have you got with you, that you've got those things. Obviously, there are other optional extras as well. I think things like highlighters are quite useful in lessons, colouring pencils, but anything else will be provided if a teacher wants your student to have that, your son to have that. But the 6 items there are absolutely essential, and of course, music, headphones. The planner will be given to boys. The planner is not used quite as often as it used to be before we were using Google Classroom for setting homework. Boys were writing homework in manually, but still, let's face it, as adults, even though we have all of, online calendars, whatever you use to schedule yourself, a diary for writing things in is still very useful. And there'll also be pages for recording things like achievement points. Mr. Artingstall, you probably know quite a bit more about the look of that planner. You could put something in the comments section perhaps, but yeah, there's still something we would expect boys to have with them every single day, even if they're not jotting down every single piece of homework, because that's going online. Okay. Right, so uniform, you will have, when you had your welcome letter, your initial invitation, acceptance letter from board, and information went home about the correct uniform. The shops are open, the shop is open, but you can also order online. It's a difficult waiting game, isn't it, with boys? You don't want to go too early with the uniform, and then they've grown tremendously over the summer, but you don't want to leave it to the last minute as well. And I respect that's quite a tricky game to play, but the PE essentials list is there. There are also some non-essential items, some optional items like the reversible rugby top, for example. So yeah, that's to bear in mind. Trainers as well as football boots are needed. And labelling everything. You'll probably have noticed in your primary schools that the odd day when there's just a table piled up with jumpers that aren't named for people to try and claim. Multiply that by goodness knows how many on the scale that you'd have in a secondary school, where not only there's many more pupils, but pupils are moving around to different rooms and different parts of the school. It would be very difficult to reunite your child with some kit that wasn't named if it was one of a mountain of things that wasn't named. So please label everything. Anything that can detach itself from your child wants a label on it. All right. Okay. So continuing with a day in the life of a boarding grammar boy, the travel and arrival at school. I did have a question earlier today from a parent about someone who was going to mostly drive their child to school, but wondered if the bus could be got on the odd occasion. And yet you can pay from the odd occasion, but you probably will be getting bus passes for most of you if you're getting the bus regularly. Okay. You need to do a bit of planning perhaps for that route, particularly if you're cycling in or walking in. How long does that take? You don't want that first morning to be spoiled and the tensions to rise and stress levels to rise because you realise, we're actually not going to make it on time, or you're driving in and there's lots of traffic. The traffic is disastrous around Sittingbourne, particularly on the Avenue of Remembrance. So you want to leave plenty of time and possibly do a little run and add a bit more time on for that early morning rush hour traffic. Okay, things like the train times, the bus numbers, which bus stop. We do get on the first day the odd student who's a little bit distressed at reception because they don't know where the bus goes from. They're not 100% sure of the number on the bus. There'll be a row of buses that arrive at the front of the school, and some don't, some are down the road. So do check all of those things out. We'll do our very best to help, but obviously there's a number of bus services, so we won't know precisely for your child which bus they want to get. So do all of that planning long in advance so that it can reduce stress levels on the day. And so 8:40, we want boys in their form rooms, in their seats, ready, because names will be taken, the register will be taken at 8:45, okay? It's a flustered start for boys if they're coming in late, or if they're running in, or if, worse still, they've got a late mark. That's tracked by me, and it's not something, I don't want to be getting into little confrontations about things that can be avoided. Of course, there are going to be occasions where it is unavoidable, unplanned disastrous traffic lights that have appeared outside school, or bus issues, but by and large, 8:40 is when we're making a start, okay? So, your child has a form group and has a form room, and that will be the same. They will have a locker. You can probably see in that picture there, off in the distance, a locker that they will be assigned, and they can keep their things in there. So you don't want to be lugging all your things around all day. So that's 8:45 to 9:05. There could be things like assemblies with me or with a member of the senior leadership team. There could be wellbeing activities, equipment checking, as I've talked about before, a bit of silent reading, a discussion about something that's going on in the news. So a variety of activities for the boys at that time. And then you will pack up, boys, all of your things, things that you need to head off to lessons. So that is your form room, but another class will be waiting to come in and start their learning. So you've got to be, packed up and making sure the desks are nice and clear and so on. Okay, so in this example of a typical day, we've got a science lesson for period 1. And you can see the boys enjoying watching an experiment there. And then it's break time. So break time, you'll have time to do what you choose to do, 20 minutes there, to chat to your friends, recharge your batteries a little bit, head to the canteen. You will have all had information about setting up an account for a Squid card. I hope you've set that up already. And so it's cashless, the canteen system, no cash is accepted. It's just a card that is shown and the money is taken off the card. Please keep an eye on the account balance so that you're not in that difficult situation where the balance is zero. We certainly don't send children away hungry if they've got a zero balance, but they would have to go to the back of the queue and wait everybody through so that we can, sort funds out, and then you'll get confirmation home from us that there's a negative balance on the card. So it all takes a little bit of a while, and it's a little bit stressful for your child, obviously. So just keep an eye on it, 'cause it's easy done. Those snacks are built up. Obviously, if you're bringing a packed lunch, a lot of boys tend to eat their lunch at break time, actually. They get so hungry. There'll be places outside to eat, that's it, that's break time. Recharge batteries, and then listen to, on this particular occasion, is a music lesson. As you can see there, we've got fabulous software. It's not just a room full of a few recorders. Great software, and music is something which is gathering momentum here, really very, very popular. And then it's lunchtime. So I've used the same pictures because it's more of the same, really. Obviously a longer session where your children will have the choice to do what they choose to do. It's a hard play area, the mugger, it's called, multi-use games area for break time, where there'll be some form footballs, you'll have to kick around the football or just sit and eat, sit and chat. And yes, you will be able to use your phones at break and lunchtime, more on mobile phones shortly, actually. Okay, that's lunchtime. There will be a few clubs on offer, and it will be confirmed what they are in September. Lesson 3 out of 4, there it is. That one happens to be PE. And then a second registration period, just 5 minutes, just to quickly get those names. So you return back to the form room for afternoon registration. So I've got somebody, let me just admit them, and one more lesson, and then it's almost, the day is almost done. And this one's an ILP lesson, independent learning project, and that's building up study skills and things which will help you in all subject areas, see you right through. And 3:15, the day is done, unless of course you choose to enjoy one of our clubs or after school activities. As I said, those things, teachers tend to see what their timetables look like so they can pick the days that they can offer particular clubs and activities, and then those will be advertised to you in September. One thing which is sure to run every day after school is homework club. So that's for an hour after school. You don't need to sign up for a period of time. You don't need to write to us and let us know. Your child just comes along and signs the register, and then it's a supervised session. So just a bit of quiet time, tick a few subjects off, and it can be quite helpful for getting organisation going. I know primary schools, some are pretty good at setting a reasonable amount of homework. Some set very little. But whatever experience you've had before, it will be a little bit of a step up, and it's something that will cause a bit of stress, a bit of confrontation with staff if you're not getting on board with that early on. So good habits built early on, and then you'll be absolutely fine. Those who sort of head in the sand, struggling a little bit, don't say anything about it, can be a little bit tricky. Okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah, I can see the chat's questions are being answered very well, so I'll ignore those for now and continue. Thanks so much. All right, so that brings you to the end of a typical day. Gives you an idea of sort of moving around the school. It's one of the big changes, and one of the things which might be causing a little bit of stress is the idea that you've got to move lesson to lesson. Will I get lost, for example? You'll have a map, and you'll certainly have plenty of leeway from staff, so they won't be sort of looking at their watches like, where is this class being annoyed? We know, and year on year, it's the same every year. You won't be the first of a cohort where there's a few turning up late, not sure where they are. Please, any member of staff, any student, if you tell them that I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be, tell them where you're supposed to be, what lesson you've got, and somebody will help you, and that's a cast iron guarantee. We all want to help you settle in as quickly as possible. Don't be worried about being late. As time goes on, we'll expect punctuality will become a bit more of a big deal. But while we're getting settled in, and particularly the first day in September, we've got the whole school to ourselves, just staff and Year 7. We'll have a normal school day, but we won't have to worry about the corridors being full of other students. We can just acclimatise. All right. Just checking the chat now. Okay. All right. So mobile phones, if your child has a mobile phone currently and takes it to school, I suspect the situation is that it must be handed in, it's kept in the office all day and then collected at the end. So it is quite an exciting moment, and the temptation of using your phone during the school day is an exciting one. Perhaps your child has getting a phone for the first time in order to come to school for security reasons, so you've got contact with them for the journey to and from school. So it's exciting, but it's a great responsibility to be looking after the phone and to be using it appropriately. So there are very strict guidelines as to their use. We want phones to be used. They can be very useful. So homework, checking Google Classroom for homework is, using your phone is a very useful tool. But it could soon lead to confrontations, difficulties, if they're not being used properly. Okay, I'll come back to social media in a sec. So mobile phones will be out of sight and not heard, switched off in any classroom setting where it's form time, registration, in the corridors as well. We will not expect to see phones, and staff will be asking to take phones if they're out. So it's basically break time and lunch time. When it's your social time, you will be allowed to use your mobile phone, okay? Any other time, we would not expect to see it, okay? And your phone could be confiscated and it will be taken to the office, and you can collect it at the end of the school day. On the second occasion, a parent will need to come and collect it, and any more than that, and you might find it's a situation where I'm writing to you as a parent and saying, I'm afraid that phone cannot be brought into school anymore. So if you like, boys, the idea of bringing your phone in, having it at break and lunchtime, you've got to respect those very, very clear guidelines, okay? And I just put a note about social media here, particularly if your phone is, it's a new thing to you. Most social media apps are for ages 14 above, some even 16 and above. Be careful. We do have boys here who have, for example, WhatsApp groups for their forms. They're a great way of staying in touch and keeping an eye on what's going on to help develop friendships. You know, when's the homework for art due in, something. You know, they can be very useful, but they can also be a place where boys can be a bit silly, a bit thoughtless perhaps, and post something without thinking, which could be seen as unkind, inappropriate, even with the best of intentions, but that, you know, just because those things are not posted while you're at school, they are things which, you know, you're a board and grammar school student now, and they will be dealt with. So be very careful. Ask staff if you're unsure about, you know, things that you've seen on there, and parents, please, you know, you can talk your children through good social media use. There'll be plenty of training for the boys as we begin, and any resources, you know, there'll be things posted for parents as well. If you're a bit unsure, you know, it's a good time to get sort of upskilled in order to support pupils.
Miss Frost, I'm just going to interrupt because I was just about to type an answer to a question, but I thought it might be worth being quicker about it. So it mentions Apple Watches. When we're talking about mobile phones, we're really talking about any electronic device, and I know that an easy way around that is an Apple Watch these days. I guess the answer to that is it depends how it's being used. If it's being used like a phone to access social media, emails, etc., then we'll treat it like a phone and it will get confiscated like a phone. If it's just to check the time during the course of a lesson, then that's a different thing altogether. So I think it'll be a bit of a question of having to use our common sense on that, I think.
Great, thank you.
As far as you're concerned.
Thank you. Okay, so we've mentioned a few times between us now Google and Google Classroom. It's a fantastic way of, you know, communicating homework to the boys. So I'm just going to quickly, so there's just a little screenshot of my personal page there, my 7MC Spanish class. I post my homework on there. Boys will be invited, that they'll be part of a class for each subject that they have, and they'll get updated when a homework's been posted. For many boys, it's the case that they will hand in their homework online, but not always. So instructions will be given there, and as you can see, if you can just see what's going on there, there'll be deadlines, reminders, all of those sorts of things. And although we certainly hope we don't have to go back to those days ever, it's where live lessons can be broadcast from as well. Okay. Also, the thing I absolutely love about Google Classroom is that if I've uploaded a homework for boys to do, so I'm a Spanish teacher and they're not sure about it, they need a bit of clarification, there's a comment function there, so they can just put a comment on and I can answer that, or I'm really struggling with this. Perhaps there's a little video I can upload just to support them. All right, so it's an absolutely fantastic way of going about homework. And, you know, absolutely no excuses. So it can't be that, oh, I didn't see you write it on the board. It's there very clearly. It's absolutely no excuses for that. Okay, so boys will be given a Google account when they join us, and that will include an email address. So they'll have a Gmail address with us. It's the initial and the surname, and then it will be 21 for the year that they joined. So it's pretty simple. And staff can communicate with boys via email, and boys can communicate with staff via email as well. And it's something they'll get used to. They will have an ICT lesson where we go through all of that on that first day on Friday. It's the first day when no other classes are present, and we'll go through absolutely everything to do with ICT, get them thoroughly set up, so they're ready to go there. Okay. All right. EduLink is the other thing which has come about this year, is new to us, and it is absolutely wonderful. It really is. So it has so many functions for us, and I'll just go through a couple of those now. You should have, hopefully, you should be logged on to EduLink, or you should have been given joining details. If there are any issues about that, obviously you can perhaps let us know. Okay. I just can see the shorts comment there. Shorts are not part of Gordon's summer uniform. We do have a summer uniform, and perhaps Mr. Tom and Mr. Artis, I will put something on there, but shorts are not part of our summer uniform, just as I saw that question. Okay, so EduLink, I hope you've got some joining details for this. It's used for the following things. So you can report your child's absence. On the parent booklet that was emailed home, there's more detailed information about how to report absence, but a telephone call to the school, or it can be done via email on EduLink. Okay, those are the two principal ways of doing it. Really important that you do that, actually, otherwise you get a text message from school and it's chasing off. So that can be done via Edulink, super useful then. You can send emails via Edulink as well, and staff can as well. So all contact details for all parents are uploaded to Edulink, and you'll find staff email addresses that you need as well. This year we've trialled very successfully parents booking parents' evening appointments via Edulink, and so it opens up and you can book for the staff that you need to see. And perhaps my favourite thing that Edulink has been used for this year successfully is for achievement. So all staff, every lesson, and not just in lessons, outside of lessons too, will be watching and will be pleased to see, for example, if your child is demonstrating any of the boredom values that Mr. Tomlin referenced earlier on. Perhaps they see an act of kindness, helping someone who's a little bit lost or a little bit disorganized, respect, holding doors open, small kindnesses like that. For effort and, of course, achievement within lessons as well. So any number of things, staff will be keen to award achievement points to your child. If they do, you will get an email notification immediately that has happened, and you'll be able to share in that success with them. I track achievement points, and in my assemblies, make a weekly reference to how many achievement points particular forms have got. So I'm always keen to celebrate your successes, your child's successes as well. On the flip side, Edulink is also used to record negative behaviour points, and if your child is given a negative behaviour point, again, you will get an email notification that something has happened that shouldn't have happened. I, as head of year, will also get an email notification of that, as will the form tutor, and I will be wanting to know what went on there, what happened there. So negative behaviour points, clearly something to be avoided. They do happen, and they are followed up on. And obviously, if you're getting a couple of those, more than just one or two in a term, you could find, I'll be asking for a meeting. Thankfully, that's a rare thing, certainly for year sevens, but just for you to be aware of, okay? And for certainly boys listening in, poor behaviour, it doesn't just stay in that moment, all right? People will find out about it, your folks will find out about it, I will know about it, and we have very high expectations for you, all right? Okay, so yeah, that's Edulink. I think that's all to be said for that. You can see a little screenshot there. So there is an app as well. I've got the app on my phone, extremely useful, so I can take my registers on it as well. And I'm guessing your screen will look something like that in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, so moving on. There's just a few extra points which, year on year, the things which I know worry boys and parents as well. So, if your child joining us in September is your eldest, then you're probably just as anxious as they are about things such as making friends. Boys, you will have made friends in your primary schools without consciously realising you were doing it. These things happen naturally, and that's really important to bear in mind. It doesn't happen on the first day. It doesn't happen in a second. Don't compare yourself to the student next to you who seems to be so popular and seems to be getting on with everybody else. Maybe they're great at the social side of things. They've made loads of friends, but they're struggling with organisation. We're all different. We're all going to develop at different rates, and there's plenty of support on offer. As I mentioned before, Mrs. Gilman has organised the forms very carefully. She's taken all of the transition information that primary schools have given us about boys and anything that's worth bearing in mind, and she's got a very careful jigsaw that she's put into place to try and get the right boys in the right form for the best sort of social engineering as well as everything else. We will be creating lots of opportunities to make friends. So not only are your lessons in different places, you'll be sat with different people in different classes. So it's not just there's a little pocket of people. You might find some boys have come with a large group from their primary schools, but we actually have 16 students who are coming to us as the sole student from their primary school. So if you're one of those boys listening in now thinking, I don't know anyone, please don't worry, you're not alone that you're the only person for a primary school. It's very common for us. We have a very large number of feeder schools. And so, making friends, it happens, okay? But it takes time, okay? So please don't think that after 1 week, I don't have any good friends yet. It will happen. It takes time. It's different for each student, all right? We keep an eye on it, and we won't let anybody be isolated. We'll do our very best to make those opportunities for social skills to develop. Okay, so please don't worry about that. Okay, thanks. All right, so we're kind of getting reasonably close to 7:15 now. There's just a few more things for me to add, and I'll hang on at the end. Won't be signing off immediately at 7:15. I'll hang on the end for any further questions. So, your child will get to know me well as head of year. It's not just behaviour, but high expectations in all areas. So I'm looking at attendance, I'm looking at lates, I'm looking at those achievement points coming in, monitoring the behaviour points as well. All of those things that are referenced in the board and values just bring together perfectly what we want from our boys, and what I'll be looking out for and what I'll be encouraging. Okay. I will look at academic performance. So there'll be 3 sets of audit grades, report grades issued a year, and I can see that question came up and it's been answered already, that those will also come out via Edulink. And celebrating achievement in academic sense, and trying to offer support, see where support can be offered where boys are struggling. But really that's not where my keen interest lies. So it'll be heads of department and subject teachers that look especially at that, and I'll keep a rough eye on it. So as I mentioned before, I will be monitoring behaviour and looking to celebrate success, okay, in any area. Assembly with me will be once a week, and there will be a clear theme for the week, and form time sessions. There'll be, certainly early on, lots of wellbeing sessions, lots of opportunities for boys to ask questions. There's a huge amount of information, I'm aware, that's come home already from this evening. And so plenty of opportunities. My absolute motto is just ask, and I'll go on about it so much that you'll be sick of it, boys, in those first couple of weeks. But it doesn't just mean in the first couple of weeks you can ask questions and then that's not the case. Please, the whole of year 7 is a settling in year, if you like. And so if at any point you find yourself having a bit of a wobble, something that's concerning you, please tell somebody, okay? I am at the door every single morning. So we saw those 2 boys coming in every morning from 8:20. I'm opening up the year 7 doors to welcome the boys in. And so any question, there is no silly question. There's no question that if I've been asked it before, I'll be thinking, well, I answered that one 2 seconds ago. All right, I'm expecting lots of questions, and I want lots of questions too, because that's the way that I think boys are going to feel settled as quickly as possible. Okay, and so that is the daily port of call for pupils, and for the most part in afternoon registration I'm also drifting around to check that everybody's doing okay. And for you, for parents and carers as well, I think when you leave primary school, there's an element of worry if you don't have any children currently at secondary school, thinking, well, what level of contact do you have now? You might have been used to being at the gates saying hi to your teacher, one teacher that you've had for a year, maybe more, and you kind of get comfortable with that. But I would say, certainly, early on, please don't feel you cannot contact the school. Once your child has been assigned a form tutor, that email address will be given to you. That's a really good place to go, first of all. But my email address will be coming up in a minute, and you've had it on previous correspondence as well. Please don't fret about asking me questions or mentioning if you think my child's just had a bit of a wobble. The more information we have, the better we can support students. All right, so I really can't stress that enough. Okay, so form tutors, once they're sort of slotted into position and we know them, we'll let you have that information as well. You now know your provisional form group because you've been given a day for summer school, and I'll come back and mention that shortly as well. I've put the Senko, Mrs. Sarziki's email address up there as well. Obviously, those of you with healthcare plans of some description or any needs, we've done some transitional visits already, and there's plenty put in place. But if you have any queries, if you're worried that some information from primary schools may not have got through, don't hesitate to get in touch with Mrs. Arziki before the end of term, and she'll get back in touch with you. Okay, just for general inquiries though, about kit and so on, the school email address, they're fabulous. The ladies in the office are getting back to you very, very quickly. Okay, so transition support, we have already started, and there's plenty more planned. For the vast majority of the primary schools out there, we will be getting a member of board and staff out to see the boys. So hold tight for that, and another opportunity for your children to ask lots of questions. Okay. The New Year 7 tab is up and running. I hope you've managed to check it out already. It will be added to regularly. It's on the information page. So there's a main tab called information on the website, and it's within that, the New Year 7 2021-2022. Tomorrow, actually, I'm doing some interviews, filming some interviews with current Year 7, and that will be uploaded very, very soon. So that's the next thing to go on. But yeah, it will be added to for the rest of this term and perhaps over the summer as well. So keep your eyes on it. It changes regularly. The summer school, we've had a fantastic response already for those of you wanting to come to the summer school, and that information's gone out. And as soon as I've got a little bit more, firmed up a little bit more of the details on that, I will write to you again with a much clearer idea of what's going on and get the consent forms in and so on. Please don't worry if you are unable to attend summer school. So it's something that we're offering, but it's not an essential thing that you should worry about. We cannot offer you a change of dates on that. I'm really sorry. I know we've had a couple of contacts already from parents. I do apologise. It's just one of those things that it becomes too messy, and then one of the reasons for that summer day is also for the form to sort of gel together a little bit, and then for us to be able to observe the form and make sure we've got the right form groups in place. The first day in September is just for Year 7, and plenty of opportunities for team building, for getting to know each other. So please don't worry if you can't make that. You won't be the only person. There are a number who can't make that. All right. And I've said it before, I'll say it just one more time, that first day in September, we're very, very fortunate that there will be no other year groups there. There'll be a few sixth forms, I think, in the afternoon who register for their courses, but other than that, we can take our time, getting to the right place with our maps, enjoying our first few lessons of the day, and seeing what all these things that I've talked about look like. What does break time look like? What does lunchtime look like? With plenty of support on offer on that day. And every and any day, please, don't hesitate. If you have a little query, if you wanted something clarified, if you wished you'd put a question in the chat this evening and you didn't get around to it, something occurs to you, please do get back in touch with us, okay? And someone will get back in touch with you, all right? So I am very excited, really excited to meet all of your wonderful children. And again, just congratulations on gaining your place with us. It's the start of a really exciting journey, a bit of a scary one, a seriously big step, but it's a fantastic school, not just for its selective nature, the fact that we want to get you the best possible grades, but in terms of being a small secondary with a big heart and a very caring community that I'm really, really proud to be part of, and see you all in person, hopefully, very, very soon. I shall hang on in the chat for any questions, and I'm sure Mr. Tomlin will probably close things off now.
I will. Thank you very much, Miss Frost. And if you haven't gathered already, you're very lucky to be having an amazing hell of a year, all of you that are joining us, who really cares. The rest of the school is equally good, but Miss Frost is something special. So what I would say is a few things that came up, just wanted to add. One thing that we can't know how it's going to impact in September at the moment, because we just don't know, we're not been told, is COVID, obviously. Currently we're planning for not being in bubbles, for being in bubbles, and a lot will depend on what the government decides, not only in the last 3 weeks of term, but also over the summer break and how things go there. So there's not a lot I can do about that, really. We'll just you just have to rest assured we're planning for both possibilities. One thing I would say in terms of uniform, buy a warm coat. It is, we are a school with few inside spaces for things like lunchtimes. And where COVID was particularly bad this year, a lot of students were outside. Unless it was pouring with rain, they were outside. And they were fine with that because they like running around. But it does get cold in the winter. I'm sincerely hoping that we won't be in that situation this year, but I would recommend buying a warm coat. You wouldn't believe how many students come to school on a cold day wearing just their school uniform. One other thing that's worth mentioning, somebody asked about numbers. We're on 138. Yes, you may have noticed from the school website, we are going through an exciting period of a school expansion. Sorry, quick question, are coats with hoods allowed? Yes, I don't get into the hoodie debate. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have hoodies, we have coats. And if something has a hood, then it is a coat, as long as it's worn over the top of everything else. Sorry, going back to it, this is an exciting period. We are currently the local authority is consulting. We've consulted on expansion. Hopefully, I'm touching wood here, the school will get to have a shiny new block, which will incorporate a 3-court sports hall, which will be out on the front of the field. together with a number of new classrooms, and it will make the school, there'll be some redesign of the internal bits of the school that are at the moment struggling a little because of the age of the building, and that will be very exciting and very useful for us. So it's an exciting period you're joining us in. We are, Miss Frost, we're also intending to try and send some staff out to visit many of our primary schools. We're organising that at the moment because you haven't been able to come in. We're trying to get people out to come and see you and have some one-to-one conversations with you. I can't guarantee that, but that's what we're working on doing at the moment. Somebody asked a question about houses. We don't at the moment really use houses as a school. I am talking and thinking about that at the moment, but I'm a firm believer that if you do something, you need to do it right. And I would rather we either use houses and do it properly, or we don't, and we do what we're doing at the moment, which is have form tutors initials at the start. And then I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's everything. All the other questions I think we've answered. If there isn't anything we've answered and you want to ask the questions you've gathered, we're always willing to give you honest and upfront answers. So feel free to email us in the meantime. I hope that was useful. Thank you again for joining us. Sorry again that you couldn't be with us in person. And we so look forward to seeing you all in September. Okay, we'll both hang on for a little bit. If you want to leave, that's fine. If you want to stay and ask some questions because you don't want other people to see them, then that's fine too. Look forward to seeing you in September. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.